In this final part of a training webinar for community archives about filming on your phone, volunteers learn how to plan a shoot.
Before you start planning on what to film, I actually really want you to take a step back and think about the film in itself, but think about your organization and what makes it special. And what do you think you can capture that really shows that? So close your eyes and think of your organization. Think of the community archives that you're creating. And I'll ask you a few questions. What activities represent what you do best within your group? What activities represent what the volunteers do and what your group's really, really about? Have a little think. And then what would you like audiences to see? What would you really like to show them about your group that might get them excited? Because this film is all about getting people interested in volunteering for community archives like yours. The next one would be, what are the awe moments in your volunteering? So that's all about emotion. So what are the moments that maybe you as a volunteer feel are emotional within the work that you do? Is it maybe when you uncover a photo of someone and you show it to them? Or is it when you see maybe young people, young volunteers working with older volunteers who've been there for a very long time? What are the kind of emotional moments that an audience could really relate to and feel touched by? And then, in a way, another question is, what gives a sense of exclusive behind the scenes access? So, for example, I'm thinking, the Museum of National Railways, you have, I think, a huge archive that might not be publicly accessible for everyone, or at least not everyone might stroll into it. So that's quite an exclusive thing. So you can think about how, what activities can be captured in that space that get audience really, really engaged. So now that you're thinking back on the activities of your organizations, I would like to ask you to come up with 3 visual scenes, activities that represent what your organization does best. And so these are just initial ideas, right? You can come up with a way longer list later and you can, redecide on what you want to capture. But this is really just a test to see, okay, what activities you think you want to capture and you think are valuable to capture for this film.
Here's an example of activities Bear Island Archive Group came up with. They wanted to document a volunteer inputting information to the Island Community Archive website, making the stories accessible online. Film an active retirement group weekly meetup to show the people that are involved. They also wanted to show people in scenic views of Bear Island, as the fact that it's a small rural island plays a big role in their daily lives.
When we're planning the shoot, we amend our shoot template as much as we need to, because every shoot is different. Locations are different. Maybe there's going to be a lot of interview and talking and action, or sometimes we need to get shots of lots of different static things. But starting from here is we need to think about, who are we filming? So is it just the volunteers? Or is it volunteers and visitors of the center? Like kids. Where is it going to be, in the center? Or are we going to film things like ferry, archive center? Of course, you would write down date and time because they will vary. And props. What do you need to bring? Is there a specific model or photos you need to bring? You need to bring an umbrella because the forecast said it's going to be raining. Once you've filled in the very basics, we then start writing up, what are we planning to film? So let's pick one of the stories. Isa, which one did you feel was very visual that we were listening to? Which one
I directly had an image in my head when Helen started talking about arriving on a ferry. I think arriving on a ferry towards an island, that's a good sequence maybe to think about how to shoot these things for all of us, because it involves movement and involves an introduction to a place, which all of you will do as part of your video.
Wide shot, ferry arriving. Medium shot, people smiling, getting off the ferry. Close up, feet stepping onto the ground. Maybe I would even get another wide shot where I don't see the ferry, people walking into the horizon on the island. Maybe this also could be pan shot, pan wide shot, ferry arriving. So you write down all sorts of shots to get for that one specific activity. When you're out filming, you're likely going to meet people you know, people you've met, all the volunteers. Things are happening and you'll be filming and think, did I already get this? Do I need to get that? If you have this checklist, if something happens, you've done your homework, you just need to color in by numbers. So having a list really helps. Another shot could have been kids trying on costumes. So again, you described this very well, wide room full of kids, and then maybe close-ups of hands picking up costumes, and then medium kid putting on a costume, head pops out from the neck hole, etc., etc., etc. Each activity, each scene has to have 5 shots. So this is what we're going to be asking you after this session, is to go away and think of what you're going to film. Remember, you're only filming visuals. You're not filming big chatters and questions and interviews and what the history is behind a costume or the box or things like that. It's getting the feel and the smiles and all of that. So on to the exercise. We want you to pick one of your activity scenes, just one, and come up with 5 shots for it. And think about what they would convey and why are they good and meaningful.
Here are a few shots filmed by Scottish Railway Archive Museum. In the wide shot, we see the volunteers inspecting donated artefacts. And here is a medium shot and a close-up on volunteers' faces and an over the shoulder so we can see better what they are looking at. After the training, the volunteers made short promotional films about their community heritage groups. Here's how they got on with planning a shoot.
So it helped to sit down and, as a group, and really sort of hone what did we want to say, who are we as an archive. I thought that was a really useful process to go through.
I found it quite daunting, really, because there are a lot of boxes to fill in. At the stage of planning, that's the time when you need to give your 5-shot sequences every chance you can.
You're telling a story when you're making your film, so think of it like that, sort of a beginning, middle and an end. And if you think of that and the message you want to get across, and keep that front of your mind, because again, you might be out filming, you might get distracted, kind of do this, that, but at the end of the day, is it still telling the story? I think that's the key thing.
It was just great to go out on the shoot days with a piece of paper in hand, because we had extras, we had props, we had all of the technology to think about. So it was absolutely great to remember what we were there to do.
We probably wouldn't have taken the shots that we did take without a piece of paper and some forward thought.
Do plan everything out. But again, at the same time, you need to be impromptu. I think if something happens you weren't expecting, have the camera ready, film it. It might be the best thing the best part of your film.
That's the end of this part of the webinar about filming on your phone. You can find more training for community archives at www.communityarchives.org.uk.